How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Twitter and their shadow banning, also their censorship of conservatives and or people that have wrong think. Now, I've been known about this. This is not news to me, quite honestly. This is more about just confirmation about what I've already known with some real inside sources. James O'Keefe, man, with Project Veritas, aside from all the controversies surrounding him, and the Roy Moore, whatever, it's kind of irrelevant to what's going on right here. So I'm going to just leave that to the side. He has done it again. He sent some independent journalists to infiltrate certain people to get into their circles and see what's really going on. They secretly recorded some Twitter employees, former and or current, about what's going on at Twitter, the shadow banning practices, how they treat conservatives, how they treat Trump, how they feel about Trump, the U.S. government and their involvement with Twitter, a lot of different things. And what was revealed was not really shocking, but to some of you, it may be. Now, what we're going to do is roll a clip. This is a brief clip from the 15-minute plus video from Project Veritas, and I will place that entire thing in the description box below. But watch this first few, I think maybe a minute of it. Watch that first minute of it. It'll pretty much sum it on up. After we get done watching the video, I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you my opinions about what was in that clip and what you may not have seen that is in the entire thing, which of course, again, is in the box below. And then I wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
We're trying to get the shitty people not to show up. It's a product thing.
Let's say it was a pro-Trump thing and I am anti-Trump. I was like, oh, I banned this whole account. It'll go to you. And then it's at your discretion. And if you're anti-Trump, you're like, oh, you know what? Mo was right. Let it go.
The idea of the shadow ban is that you ban someone, but they don't know they've been banned because they keep posting, but no one sees their content. So they just think that no one's engaging with their content when in reality no one's seeing it. I don't know if Twitter does this anymore.
How do you know if it's a bot and not a normal person?
You use machine learning. You look for Trump or America and you have 5,000 keywords to describe a redneck. And then you look and you parse all the messages, all the pictures, and then you look for stuff that matches that stuff.
So is it gonna essentially ban certain mindsets and or people who could be negative?
No, it's not gonna ban a mindset. It's gonna ban a way of talking.
Do you have access to DMs of Twitter? Oh, I do.
Okay, so you saw that. You pretty much understand what's happening here. Like I said, I'm not surprised, but many of you may be. This is what Twitter does. This is what also Facebook and Google do, the shadow banning. Let's talk about shadow banning first. Then we get to some of the other things that were mentioned in the clip and also that were in the extended piece. Now, shadow banning, that's when you're banned, but you don't know you're banned. Okay, that happens a lot to certain people. They're wondering, hey, why is nobody seeing my stuff? I can see it. I can interact with everybody else. Why is nobody seeing it? And a lot of times it kind of happens to people that don't have a big following, because who are they really going to talk to? Who are they really going to call? So it happens to them. And it's just a practice of allowing you to participate in the platform, but your stuff can't be seen. And the biggest thing about that is who they're shadow banning. It's mostly conservatives or people that they think have wrong think, people that pretty much agree with Trump. Those are the ones that are being shadow banned. If it was a liberal bot, I doubt that they would get banned. And speaking of bots, one of the engineer guys was talking about how he's able to identify what a bot is. If you have a cross in your avatar profile, if you have a gun, if you're basically what they consider to be a redneck, which is basically like a regular American. Okay. If that's you, you may be considered a bot and or a Russian troll. This Indian guy's talking about who talks like that. How do you know who talks like that? How long have you been here? Where's your visa at? How long has that visa been in effect? I can't tell the guy from India how Indians talk. So how can he tell us about how Americans talk? These are the kind of guys that are in control of your media. And you know what? I don't even really blame him for that point of view about how Americans or people in general should talk. I think it's about the culture over at Twitter, and that's not a racial thing. That comes from everybody that works over there. One of the people that was interviewed, and I think this guy, I forget his last name. I think his first name was Mo, kind of a dark-skinned guy with the ponytail. He was talking about how Twitter does certain things. I think he was a quality control guy. Basically, things would get flagged for deletion, for spam, harassment, bullying, whatever, and he would be the guy to say yay or nay. And he was saying in the interview, which, by the way, I think he was being upfront about being interviewed and being recorded. I can't really prove that for certain. If you know one way or the other, please let me know in the comments below. But it appeared as if he was in the actual offices giving them some details after he had left Twitter, but I can't call it. Anyway, he was talking about how things that are conservative would pretty much always be allowed to stay banned, blocked, shadow banned, or whatever, but things that are liberal may not be as much. They may just be allowed to get off the hook with whatever flag that was on it. So you have an imbalance there in your actual enforcement of Twitter's rules. And many of the rules that were over at Twitter were unwritten. You have terms of service, which is always vague. I mean, especially on YouTube. And I know that these tech companies, they pretty much do what they want. In terms of service, is meaningless. It gives you a general guideline of what you cannot say and what you can say. But as far as how it's enforced, it's pretty much up to a human individual. And if you have a company that has no diversity, and what I mean by that is there's nobody that has different kind of thought process. You understand? Everybody must have this same thought process. Everybody must abide by not only the written rules, but the unwritten rules, which will probably hold more weight than the written rules. Okay. If you have a certain culture of a company, if you have to fit into the company, and I've been told this when I was trying to get a job back in the day, you must fit into the culture of the company. And if you don't, then they're just not going to hire you at all. So when you're in that echo chamber of everyone that thinks the same way you do, what you have to do is abide by their culture, think like them, behave like them, or get kicked out. The rules that are on the table don't mean that much. It's all about what the unwritten rules are and the culture of the company is. Okay. If you are a Trump supporter, if you're someone that does not want to punish Trump supporters, then you're probably not going to be allowed over at Twitter. And the same thing with Google. We saw that. We see James Damore, who got fired over at Google for trying to have more diversity. I mean, God forbid you have more diversity over at Google, but he did it in a way that was against their thought process. You know, he had wrong think. He got fired for that. Now he's suing Google for discriminating against conservative white males. When he was on Fox News, James Damore, that is, I'm kind of getting off of the topic of Project Veritas Twitter, but I get right back to it. When he was on Fox News, Tucker Carlson read a story where somebody came on the Google campus that was a white male, I guess to visit a friend to have lunch. A silent alarm, I'm not making this up, a silent alarm went off, and then somebody from security came and escorted the person off the campus simply because they were a white male. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, racism, discrimination, all of that should not be tolerated when you're talking about these big companies. I mean, if you're going to have a tolerance policy, then it needs to be followed all the time, not just whenever they feel as though it's necessary to do so. But I digress. Let's get back to Project Veritas on Twitter. Like I said, I'm not surprised here. The shadow banning, the unfair treatment of conservatives, the Trump hate, and the U.S. government trying to pry into what's going on. I wonder who's doing that. Because, you know, somebody might blame Trump's administration for doing that. But at the same time, think about it like this. Twitter wants to get Trump out of there as well. So do you think the U.S. government is going to advocate for that? Maybe they would if Trump doesn't know what's going on. If the people that are closest to the actual people that make the laws don't know what's going on, then maybe they'd be able to do that. Kind of like, you know, it's a closed channel. Because you got to understand, Trump, Pence, everybody else, high-level guys, they may not be involved with the everyday minutia of dealing with Twitter and simple things like that. So maybe some things are going on that shouldn't be going on in the federal government when you're talking about targeting celebrities and things like that. People like Julian Assange or whoever else a celebrity is. So I'd like to see from what agency of the government is a pressure coming from, or if what the guy in the video said about the U.S. government pressuring them is actually true, or if it's false. Either way, I say this is pretty much a vindication for me. I've been knowing that Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these companies, these big Silicon Valley companies engage in this kind of behavior, discriminating against anybody that's a conservative, especially if you are a white male. If you are a black male, you don't get treated any better than a white male, be perfectly honest with you, because Look at what's going on with the whole Doug Jones situation in Alabama. All over Twitter, all over Facebook, all over Google, it was this hashtag floating around that I'm sure Twitter curated themselves manually by the employees of the actual company, talking about black women. What about black men? I'm not even proud of the accomplishment, but why only thank the black women for getting Doug Jones in there when black men were also needed in that process, because black men pretty much voted in line with black women and vice versa. So why are you only going to talk about black women? It's because, in my humble opinion, as I close, black women are a bigger affirmative action score. You're able to get a black person and a woman. That's 2 for 1, 2 birds with 1 stone, rather than a black male, especially a straight black male. Oh, you're too aggressive. You're too scary. I've heard that in my life just because of my voice. And I'm 6'2", over 200 pounds, and I'm just a scary, aggressive person. Okay. So I think at the end of the day, I think white males, black males, any masculine male can form some kind of bond over these kinds of practices, because even though right now it's directly out in the open against white males, that's like, it's easy to do that. You could say no white males allowed, silent alarm, white males get out, but then it's going to be black straight males. Then it's going to be Hispanic straight males. Anybody that's seen as a man that won't be allowed to be pushed over, that will stand his ground, that will be aggressive when need be, you got to get out of there. They're going to put the homosexual, they're going to put the transgender, they're going to put the furry, they're going to put any kind of woman that can be manipulated without a man in her life. They're going to put them ahead of you because they're more easily controlled. They're more easily led astray. They're more easily given the Jim Jones Kool-Aid, which I will not be drinking. Hopefully you don't drink it either. So what do you think? Do you think this is old news about Twitter shadow banning, discriminating against conservatives, and their whole process, the machine learning, basically teaching the machine that if you have a gun in your profile, if you have a cross, if you're a Christian, to discriminate against you, to treat you as a bot? Give me your personal stories in the comments below. Have you been banned from Twitter, shadow banned, or anything like that? How about Google? Have you seen any Google moderation on your channel? Do you live stream? Do you just look at comments? Have your comment been deleted automatically? And you know what? I'm going to say this as I close. I've seen some comments, because you know Google, they automatically filter some comments and put them in the spam. It's impossible for me to keep up with all of them. I can't really go in there and take each comment out manually, even though that option does exist. It's just too many to actually go through each time. But every now and again, I'll just kind of just scan it to see what's in there. And a lot of the comments are harmless, but you have to understand what Google is seeing as harmful. And I think once we understand what's going on with that, we'll be able to get a greater picture of how Silicon Valley works and how they try to influence our everyday life. But whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.